Right, one more apparently. Just one more. The differences between sex and gender and the muddying, because the muddying of sex and gender has happened at universities like LSE. And I talked about the different disciplines. But basically, like, I was looking at this, like, I want clarification for this from another reason, because I need to know why it is that in 2010 we tried to roll back equality for women and why mothers had to do this. And basically, I talked about mothers as a central point in the political economy. Everybody in these disciplines is working on the basis that mothers will just continue to do what they do, because they will. So mothers are invisible, and they're just bearing the weight of all this fucking policy that doesn't see them. And in the meantime, like, I'm not being funny. I actually don't care if I'm insulting anyone. When you read elite academic feminism, gender studies, queer studies, what you're actually reading is narcissistic word salad. And it's dangerous, narcissistic word salad, because not only is the difference between sex and gender, and Miranda Yardley was really good at that meeting about saying, you know, the different conceptions. We understand gender as a system of subordination, and, you know, Ros Cavini understands gender as an internal identity so that he's allowed to subordinate other people. So I actually don't think there's as much of a mismatch as everybody thinks. But these are different conceptions of gender. Gender as an identity and internal thing, which is a bollocks, by the way, is at the core of this trans thing. Gender as a structure of subordination is, you know, something that feminists understand, and so they are not taking kindly to it being kind of described as an internal thing. But actually, there's an entirely more worrying problem here. So because of these concept difficulties, and because this blindness to the reality of female existence, because that's what it is, it's a complete blindness to the reality of women, and particularly the working class women who are at the core of all these systems, this is translating into other really dangerous stuff. And I would urge people to start looking at fertility literature, because the same economists who've just decided to theorize welfare systems, which have just literally, I mean, I'm not joking, you know, I've had malnutrition once, you know, I am in poverty, a minor period of, you know, I might need to come out of the workforce a little while my daughter's small has turned into a major 8-year thing because of this. You know, I'm not allowed boundaries. The rule of law doesn't apply to me. Because these economists don't see why I should be allowed boundaries, and don't see why women like me have boundaries or the rule of law, and they don't see that they're boundaries that they can't cross. Well, the most terrible, the fertility literature, the same men who can't see how the family shape has changed society, how that's shaped our institutions, changing birth rates, changing lifespans, the reason that they're all linked, the way that this has shaped system development. The same men have already made plans for when birth rates and demographic changes make their models unsustainable. And the fertility literature is all using fucked up and messed up conceptions of sex and gender to basically signpost a future where these men believe that their future is controlling all women. You know, when birth rates fall, they'll just do something to us to compel us. They don't, you know, not listen to us, obviously, just more policy. And there's a bank of fertility literature sat there waiting to be developed into policy. So this needs to be addressed now. And it's really a very basic thing. The rule of law has evolved beyond all these disciplines. And the only way that these disciplines can have the outcomes that they're looking for is if the rule of law is undermined. But this is now creating abusive policy, and we talked about power dynamics earlier. All these policies are doing is they're forcing people to reconstruct their understanding of power, and all that's really doing is coming back to these disciplines and institutions, and we're at the point of synthesis now. The reason that I did those videos to Mike and John is because this crisis is actually going to be really unpleasant, because this consensus shifted ages ago. People's understanding of power have reconstructed, and now they don't trust things. You know, the trust that was in our institutions isn't there. It's going to take us 30, 40 years to ever get that back. People don't... We've just been told that our lawmakers do not know about the rule of law and being abused by the state. So that level of trust between the state and the individual is gone. You know, the people, you know, the likes of the New Statesman writers and the Owen Jones, who saw this as an opportunity to reproduce their class identity. And, you know, I don't know if they were aware of it. I think some of them very much were. I think most of them weren't. I think most of them really couldn't see beyond their own identity. And what they've just done is tried to impose their own identity and say, we'll be reverting back to a pre-1945 society. No, we won't. What we're in is a 2018 society with massive institutional breakdown. The rule of law has just been undermined for 8 years, and the politics of blame that did it has just thrown us out of the European Union. And the problem is that the only reflex these people have is blame. And they still have the power to do that. So the only thing that people like us can do is use the very minor impact that we have on social media to say, hi, we're here, and you at the very least can't say this time that you did it without anybody telling you. You know, none of the people that have attempted this on social media can say that nobody tried to tell them the harm it was doing. And in the aftermath, a lot of them will want to pretend. But here we are.